All right, friends, so today I'm going to teach you all how to cook some amazing fish and get a really nice ultra crispy crust on it, and doing it in a regular pan like this right here, okay? So I've had some friends that are still trying to work out their fish and their cookery and how to get it right. So it doesn't matter if it's salmon, this is halibut, okay? I'm gonna show you how to cook it on one side, low and slow, as long as possible, so that you can get a nice crispy crust, okay? So if you're impatient, the short of the long, low and slow. However, better have some patience because you're gonna be cooking it low and slow for a while, okay? So first things first, my stuff here is on paper towel, and I had it on the top and bottom, okay? When you're cooking almost anything, fish, chicken, beef, whatever, and you're gonna be doing it in a saute pan, water is the enemy. Okay, so you want your stuff as dry as possible. Now that might make it a little bit hard for your salt, pepper, and your seasoning to stick. So if you want to spray it with just a little bit of oil, that's fine because it's going to have oil in the pan anyways when you do it. But try to keep the seasonings to a minimum. Salt and pepper to start. If you start using other things like chili powder or things of that nature, sometimes they burn in the pan. So salt and pepper is always a safe bet. Especially because we're going to be cooking it on one side. Now there are two sides to a fish if you don't know it. Okay, there's the fleshy side, which is on the inside, and then the outside is the skin side, okay? And you can kind of tell where the skin side. So we're going to be doing flesh side down as long as possible. And this is about an average thickness for a piece of average fish, okay? This is about an inch thick right here, and we should be able to cook it almost all the way through without having to flip it, and that's how you get a really nice crispy crust. Okay, if it's going to be a little bit thinner, yeah, you're definitely going to be able to cook it on one side. Sometimes halibut's super thick, like 1.5 inches to 2 inches thick. Sometimes it looks almost like this. You get a huge block, okay? There's nothing we can do. We're going to have to cook it low and slow on one side. You flip it. You might even have to put it into the oven for a little bit so you don't burn the top, okay? So remember, water is the enemy. Yes, let it get nice and dry, and then we're going to start this process here. And I am not going to stop the video and do any cuts once I put it in the pan, because I want you to be able to understand how long it actually takes to cook this fish in real time. Because what you really need to listen is the sizzle of the pan. Okay, that's going to tell you how fast or slow you are cooking, and control of your heat is paramount, okay, and being able to hear, okay, people are like, how long is it going to take? Well, I don't know, is your pan on high or is it on low? And you're going to need to adjust it. Think about driving on the freeway. What happens when you get on the freeway? You stomp on the gas, you go fast, you get up to speed. But once you get up to speed, you take your foot off of the gas, and then you are feathering the gas pedal to maintain a consistent speed with the flow of traffic. This is the exact same thing when it comes to cooking and working with a pan. Okay, we need to control the speed. Sometimes we need to turn it up. Sometimes we need to turn it down. Sometimes we can be on cruise control and we'll be good for a while. Okay, so let's get started. So now we're ready to get started. We're going to cook the fish. But before I start seasoning the fish, I'm actually going to turn on the pan. Why? Because it's going to take some time to get the pan hot. And while that's getting hot, then I can be seasoning the fish. So this helps save time. So I'm going to turn it on high. And I'm going to show you what it looks like when a dry pan starts to smoke. Okay, because you want a smoking hot pan, but not too hot. We'll talk about that. And then we're going to add the oil in, and that will tell you if the pan is hot enough. Now, if I had to choose between oil that's too hot or too cold, I would take oil that's too hot any day, because if the oil isn't hot enough when you put the fish in, you've already fucked up. Okay, it's going to stick. It's going to look like shit. It's not going to come out. Hot oil, I can let it cool down, but I don't know how hot it is until I put it in. So that's why I would want some smoking oil. Now, salt and pepper, okay? Now you could use any kind of salt, any kind of pepper, but if you want to be extra, especially when it's a white fish, you want to use white pepper because A, it has a different flavor profile, but you won't see the black specks in your white fish, okay? So if you're just trying to be extra. Now I'm not going to show you how to season it, but I like to use kosher salt, but I've also got this kind of like lavender colored sea salt that actually doesn't turn lavender color when you're cooking. I'm going to use that instead. Okay, now I have seasoned both sides, and once again, let's remind yourselves and reiterate that I want to put the flesh side down, and the reason that I have the skin side facing up is because I usually season the flesh side first, flip it over, and you can tell because you can see these little marks or striations. This is from where the skin was connected, okay? So that I can just take it and put it right into the pan. So we are just waiting for the pan to start to get hot. And you'll notice a hot pan with nothing in it will actually start to get these wisps of smoke, so that's what we're waiting on. Now, while we're waiting for this to get hot, sometimes people are like, well, how hot is hot, okay? Like, this is hot. I can touch it really quick and I'm not getting burned, okay? It is hot. Another option is to get your hand wet and throw a little water in and see what it sounds like, okay? Yes, is it hot? Of course, it's sizzling, but is it hot enough? I don't think so yet. So I'm gonna wait a little bit longer. Okay, we're starting to get there. Unfortunately, I have to turn on the fan just so we can vent a little bit, but I'm gonna keep it as low as possible. We're gonna add some of the oil just to get an idea of where the temperature is at. Yes. So you can see this is some smoking hot oil right there. That is a good sign. You see it's a smoking hot pan, shaking it around, okay? So I'm gonna move it off just so it can cool a teeny bit. Remember, like I said, I would rather have a hot oil pan any day over a cold pan because I can always turn the heat down. I can always let it cool down and stop smoking. Can you see the smoking coming off of this? Right, that's a good sign. We have a smoking hot pan. The oil is hot. That means that when I start to put the fish in, it's not going to stick. Okay, so it literally just stopped smoking. So now we're gonna swish it around. It should be watery, okay? And I'm gonna take this and I'm gonna put it in, okay? So don't be afraid of the sizzling sound. Every time people put it in, they're like, oh my God, it's sizzling, I'm gonna get burned. No, you're not, okay? But you can always just stick a side in to see what it's gonna sound like. I know this is gonna be good. Boom, 1. This one's gonna cook really quick. 2, 3, and then 4. And I'm gonna move this around just a little bit. I'm gonna turn my heat to 6. Okay, I want you to hear the sizzle, so I'm gonna put the microphone a little bit closer. So this is a good sound. It's a medium sizzle. It's a medium-low sizzle, but I wanna keep it just a little bit lower. And here's the deal. Once you put your fish in the pan, you don't get to move it, okay? If you fucked up, you already fucked up. It has to stay there the entire time. Okay, but you wanna make sure that the oil is able to move around a little bit, okay? And you notice how there's like a high point here in the middle and the oil goes out to the sides. So I'm gonna wanna place my fish around the sides so it can stay in the center, well, stay in the center, stay in the oil while it's cooking. Now if you wanna use a little splatter screen or something like this, you could do that too. That's totally fine, but listen to that sound. So you need to hear what's happening here. So this is a good sizzle. It could be just a little bit lower, especially if we're going for low and slow. So that's what we're gonna do. Remember, as I said, I'm not making any cuts. We're gonna do this in real time to see how long it's actually gonna take. Now, I don't know if you can hear this, but it's actually starting to sizzle a little bit faster. And it's picking up a little momentum. And to me, that tells me I need to turn the heat down just a little bit so I can keep it at that medium-low sizzle while I'm cooking. And if I ever need to add more oil in, yeah, feel free. Sometimes the oil just kind of like aerates and dissipates, and sometimes you want to make sure that you've got a little bit of oil in there so we've got a nice cooking medium. Okay, we are going to move the fish in a couple of minutes, but we want to give it an opportunity to set that crust. And I'm going to try introducing a second microphone on the side over here. And hopefully that works for sizzle sound effects while I use the one that I've got on my chest. So, if we come in here a little bit closer, now I can see from the side that we're getting a golden color. Okay, so that's a good indicator that we've got something going on. And keep in mind that sometimes you need to move the pan around, right? If I have it too far to one side, right, this side's gonna cook faster than the other, so keep it centered. Sometimes the burner, maybe you're using a slightly smaller burner, okay, because you have a gas one. So maybe the burner is only in this part of the pan, so this is gonna be the hot spot as it goes out to the sides. So you need to keep that in mind as well. So now the sizzle has started to fizzle out, right? And now it's kind of quiet. I don't know if you can hear that. Right? Now it's almost a low kind of sizzle. Now I'd rather have low and slow, super low and slow if I'm going for that deep crust. But we're gonna be able to look here in just a second. But if you've got this, you've got a nice little crust and you've given it time to set, you should be able to pick this up like this without even needing a spatula. Okay, let's look at this. Look at this, we're already getting a really nice golden crust. Okay, so I'm gonna put it back here in the oil. Look at this one. Right, it's getting dark. We don't want it to burn. Same thing over here, right? There's a little darkness, so I'm gonna maybe move it in a little bit. Look at that piece right there, super nice and golden, okay? Now you might think like, oh, that's great, I can flip it now. Oh no, my friends, we want more. So I'm going to keep it nice and low. And we wait. That's all we do. We just continue to wait. Low and slow. Stay on top of it. Okay, so in the meantime, while this is cooking, you could be doing different prep. Okay, so I've already cooked off today. We're having some roasted sweet potatoes and potatoes, which are cooked. The oven is still warm, so I can throw them back in at the last minute to reheat them. And I'm actually going to be making kind of a ragu with this. So once the fish get close to being done, eventually we're going to have to flip it. Yes, but what I'll do is I'll pour off all the oil. Yeah, I'm going to throw this stuff in. We'll start with the onions, cook those off a little bit. Then we'll add the bell peppers. We're going to get a little bit of sauciness from the tomatoes over here. And the olives are going to really bring this together. Okay, so we're going to have a nice ragu, so to speak. Yes. So here we are. We're just waiting. You can hear how quiet that sizzle is. Remember, sometimes we need to move the oil around. And if you look at this, we have substantially less oil than when we started. Okay, so we might need to add a little bit more in, but I'm going to wait. We're also going to check on our fish just to make sure we're not burning it, right? Deep, deep golden. Look at that. It's fantastic. But we can continue to go further. Okay. Right here. Nice and golden. Okay. You can see some of the stuff is kind of sticking to the bottom. And you can also see the opaqueness coming around the sides of your fish. That's a good indicator. Okay. This one's a little dark. This tells me that this is my hot spot over here as well, right? This is the darkest one. Has been over here, so maybe I need to shift the pan over just a little bit to the left so that everybody gets equal distribution of heat while I'm cooking. Yeah, but we're developing a nice crust here, okay? Being gentle with the fish. How are we doing? This guy looks nice over here, okay? Low and slow, low and slow. Maybe I will add just a little more oil. And remember, when you add more oil in, if it's cold oil into a hot pan, that's going to bring down the temperature for a little bit. So do I need to turn the heat up just a little bit more to offset, right? Once again, you were kind of like we're on the freeway, going faster, going slower. Sometimes we press down on the gas pedal. Sometimes we release it so that we can move at a consistent speed. Yes, whatever that means. Okay, so I'm going to turn it up just a little bit because I feel like that sizzle is getting just a little bit low, which is good. We're not going to be able to cook the fish all the way through 100%, although this one back here is getting there, but we want a super solid, crispy crust, and then when we flip it over to the other side, it's only going to take a few minutes, and we're actually going to baste the fish with a little bit of fresh thyme that I've got. We'll pour some more oil in. If you don't have a big serving spoon like this is not just a regular tablespoon, it's an extra large one. These are really great for basting, or the French term is arroser. Okay, you're basting, we're going to arroser. You're going to see that here in a minute. Okay. Now I haven't been timing this myself, so I don't know how long it's taking, but there should be a ticker in the final video, okay? And we're going to look one more time. I think we're getting close. All right, we've given it a good while on one side. Look how dark that is. That looks fantastic, okay? All right, this as well. Could be a little bit darker, but pretty good overall. No real burning, okay? We don't want burn. We don't want black. Look at this. Awesome, okay? This one, when I flip it over, this is only going to need a minute. But look at that. That is nice. Don't flip yet. Okay, so we're getting there. We're losing some stuff. We don't want stuff to burn. Okay, so I'm going to turn the heat up just a little bit in anticipation of flipping this over and getting to the next step. And what I'm going to do is once this gets done cooking, I'm going to put it on a piece of paper towel over here and have it resting so that it can absorb any oil or anything like that. Okay, so we've got some paper towel over here. And we're actually going to have some sauteed spinach, so I got to get another pan ready over here, and then the potatoes will slap into the oven at the last minute to let warm up, okay? So, overall, I think we've got a really nice crust here, right? And I'm happy with this. Then I can flip it over, okay? And that's exactly what we're gonna do. So before I do that, I'm gonna move my oil around, make sure that there's some oil under the spot where I wanna flip my fish over to, and do just that. Flip it, flip, and flip, just like this, okay? This is not gonna take very long. I'm gonna give it about a minute right there on that one side. I'm gonna add a little more oil. More oil, God, there's so much fat. The fat is not being absorbed in, okay? And we're gonna take this, now we're gonna take this part, listen to it pop. Okay, now we're infusing that with the oil. I might want a little more oil. If you're feeling extra, you might want some butter for some extra deliciousness. Okay, and now I'm going to bring this down here to the side a little bit so that I can tilt, and I'm going to baste, right? So as I baste, the oil is going to come back through my thyme. Now we're going to get some delicious flavor happening up here. Remember, as I said, that small piece up here is probably done cooking already. And by basting right here, this is also going to help crisp up the top part while you infuse that flavor. This fish I'm going to take out because I don't want it to burn. Keep basting. Roseing. Smells fantastic. Okay. I'm just going to let that rest for a minute and let it go like this. And in the meantime, while I'm doing that, I'm going to start to heat my pan up for the spinach. Okay. So I'm going to turn that on high. And my oven's at 350. These are still warm. I'm going to throw the potatoes back in and then turn the oven off, right? And all that residual heat is going to help heat up my potatoes, okay? And while I'm here, there's a lot of splatter going on, so I'm just kind of cleaning as I go. Yeah, it's inevitable. We're going to baste one more time before I pull the fish out, okay? I can kind of feel that it's got a nice little pudginess to it. How do you know when it's done? You just know, okay? Practice, okay? But since we did most of the cooking on one side, we only need a few minutes on the other, especially if you want it. What's the perfect temperature? Ideally 125 degrees, maybe 130 will give you a nice medium fish, but you probably want to pull it out of the pan at 120-ish. Because it's going to continue to cook afterwards, okay? While it's resting. So that's exactly what we're going to do now. So now we're going to pull these other ones out. You might need a spatula, you might not, depending on how good you do the job. See, look, it's cooked, but we got the good crispy piece up here. One. Now I need a spatula for that one because I don't want to have all the flake break off underneath. Okay. Great. Stay there, time. Boom. Okay. So this concludes the main demo of cooking the fish. However, if you want to continue watching so you can see me make my special pan sauce, feel free. So I'm just going to dump everything out of here. Yeah. Dump the oil out of the pan. Okay. Then we're going to take some onion. Well, the pan is still hot, so we're going to be making a ragu. A ragu is kind of a loose pan sauce. Okay, it's not super thick. Okay. There's another word that's not coming to mind. So now I can turn the heat up because now we're cooking regular stuff. Yeah, in the pan, okay? We will need just a little bit of oil. And actually, I'm going to put just a teeny bit, not too much. I don't want the heat to be too high because I don't want to burn the stuff that's in here, okay? believe the French term for this is the fond lit, which is the sticky bits in here that are good. Okay, so we're gonna cook these up, slightly higher speed. They're gonna give us some nice caramelization. I'm gonna put all the bits and pieces in there and get my other pan nice and hot over here so we can do some sauteed spinach. I just want you to see how I'm gonna do my pan sauce over here, which is gonna be delicioso, right? And at the last second, I might even add in a little bit of this olive oil that's here for that extra flavor. Okay, so good high temp. Sometimes this stuff continues to absorb. Don't forget to add a little salt and pepper in here as well, because you need to season your different layers. As you can see, we're starting to get some nice caramelization on the onions. Okay, so now we'll throw in my bell peppers. It could be yellow, it could be red, it doesn't really matter what color. Sometimes green is nice because you actually get a little bit of that bitterness. This is what I happen to have on hand right here. I'm going to get a nice little char on this. All right, see, we're almost there. We're cooking with fire, boys and girls. Okay. Then I'm going to add in the olives. Olives aren't really going to do anything except for add flavor, which is fantastic. And then I'm going to add in the tomatoes as well. Okay. Once again, don't forget a little bit of salt and pepper. And like I said, I might add just a little bit of the olive oil just to see if I can get a little more. And if I had a little bit of white wine, I might even hit it with that, but I don't. So we're just gonna stick with salt, pepper, and maybe a little dash of oregano. And I'm actually gonna put a little bit of water in there to loosen everything up, like so. See that? Okay. Yeah, buddy. Okay. And I might just keep it a little bit loose. So if all of this evaporates, I'll add a little bit more in, but I want it to be a little loose, a little bit wet. I don't want it to be like a thick sauce. But this is how I'm making my ragu. This concludes our cooking demonstration. Okay, super nice, crispy crust. All of this happens in a matter of minutes. While that's resting, we're making this. We pull it out, bada boom, bada bing. Hopefully that helped. Okay, friends, and then this is the final result here, give or take. Yes, we've got our 2 pieces of halibut up here. We've got our roasted potatoes and sweet potatoes. We've got the ragu on the bottom. I'm using one of the olives as a garnish here. And then I poured just a teeny bit of the pan sauce right on top so some of that flavoring filters down through the fish. Voila, enjoy.